first generation. So we started by having conversations with students, faculty, and staff just to get a sense of if we create a program, what should it be to? To be for being able to share with students the challenge for other students about what they're going through at the time. Even for faculty and staff, wanted to learn for their generation. Here at Drexel, about this first generation, so it is a significant, at least at the undergrad level. So we've had a whole series of events this week. On Monday, we had a lunch and learn called What I Wish I Knew About Work-Life Balance. And I think we had staff talking about some of the challenges and even some of the joys that we have in regards to figuring out how to make that balance between work and life and school and everything that we have going on. Wednesday, they're medical students, also around experience, especially at the medical level, med school level. And today, now we have the Story Slam. And this week would not be the help of a lot of people. So definitely thanking the LeBeau College of Business for allowing us to use this space for the event tonight. So we have a raffle, so hopefully everyone put their name in the pumpkin at the front table. Student Life, Office of Equality and Diversity, and the Center for Scholar Development. Also thanking the Drexel Enrollment Management and Student Success Marketing and Communications team. They did all communications, so the Drexel One post on Facebook and Instagram, they created those. Went by any of the Infonet screens, the nice blue picture, they created that for us as well. Of course, the first four to thank, but thank you to everyone on the, especially our Center City representatives. And done. And so we want to be encouraging live stream. So thank you to so just kind of kicking off. To tell the stories, rule the world. And so we want you Planetarium.
Hi, my name is Miriam. Confusion and anger, but also empowerment, because the concept of this is I wear my heart on all my sleeves. I eat Maggi noodles, I drink kava. We call that. When I was little, of realizing that something was wrong with me. Only Pakistani in the whole entire school was something that was natural for me. Being raised between two worlds. The world asks me, Miriam, pick one. I ask the world, why? World, what do you want from me? I was responsible for the bombs that always. You made me wish that I was someone else. Tell me, world, why do you hate me so? Ideas are as colorful as the biryani I eat. And yet you expect me to fit your black and white idea of what an American should be? You say I say. Let me breathe, let me live, let me be who I want to be. Guess what, world? You will never change me. You want to know something, world? Oh yes, world. You ask me why I'm proud to be who I am? I'll tell you. My ideas are as colorful as the biryani I had for lunch. My heart is painted green and white. My mind feels alive as red, white, and blue runs through my mind. Us first gen know what sacrifice is. Even, but more importantly, for ourselves. And so we're asked what makes us the most proud of being first gen. And I say, know who we are from a very young age. At a very young age, I realized that I wasn't like everyone else. And it took me a while to realize that different is my strong suit. The last thing I want to say is the strength of us first gen is that we turn our weaknesses into strengths. And
All right, thank you. That was definitely a good start to the evening.
How you doing? I haven't done poetry in a while, so I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you. And things like that, because I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't communicate how I felt so I tried to do it through music, and then when I got people 60s that area, you know what I mean, and then that was who I was around most of my life. So then coming to college where I'm around like people my age, it was a disconnect. Poem because this is institute they see the because when I take the bitter fruit, vegetable in a cell jail. hundreds. Appreciate you. Stay stagnant because you anything and paint through the patience that I can't touch. You touch somebody's past we revolve around this basically involved, but I can't see the
All right, add business assistance thing.
thought I just kind of and whole town and treated it different. And
Now's the time. If not,
and I don't have anything prepared, so I'm shooting from the hip. But where I was grow up, get married, raise a family, baby making machine. And I knew from a young age that and worked for a while and kind of have found my way through, I guess, the hardships that we all run into. But not for me. And I've chosen a different path, and I've carved out my own path. And now, looking at other people around me, yeah, I think that's something that we all have, that ability to, like Miriam said, take our weaknesses and turn them into strengths, and say, like, what is the life that
thank you. Any other stories? Even though I knew about this event plenty of time, I didn't really have anything prepared. But in area, some to one. My dad, my mom's degree, important from there. Those, I don't know how. I think and say this big on the internet. Google someone as I was realized that to I wish is and encourage and
So you claim to be a college prep school. I could, and fast forward to where that chair is roughly, and I'm right. Go to bed, go to sleep. Fast forward, think over. So around 1:30, I get the happy Thanksgiving. that nation. So I give her the call. I say, hey, Mom, listen, I've been out having fun. I lost track of time, yada, yada. And she's like, okay. Like, you ever feel that change in the conversation, even no words are saying? Is that tension, that buttery knife type stuff? So she goes, all right, whatever, just make sure you're here tomorrow, which basically means be here tomorrow in the daytime. Like, be here when I'm here, you know what I mean? So I go to sleep, great. Wake up, it's like 6, 7-ish o'clock. I wake up, everybody's still asleep. So I was like, I went back to sleep. Woke up 11, 12 o'clock. Everybody's up like, hey, we about to go to this mall. You trying to come with? I was like, all right, cool. It's not that. I can slide to a mall. It's no problem. And one of my friends was like, hey, we about to hop in this zip car. And I was like, zip car? All right, okay. This is a different type of day. I'm rocking with it. Get in the zip car, and we're on the way to the mall. And then we cross the bridge. And I'm like, I feel like I should call my mom. I don't know where we're going. I pick up the phone and, hey, Mom. She's like, where you at? And I was like, I'm on my way to my friends to a mall. She's like, where is this mall? And I was like, it's in Jersey. You could hear my mother 2 cars away through the phone. Like, it was bad. But I was already in the car. Like, it was too late. I was like, all right, I'm going to just have fun at the mall and go straight home. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. We get to the parking lot of the mall. As we're leaving the car, they go, yo, we got the zip car. We in Jersey. We might as well slide to New York. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, all right, I'm already in trouble. I might as well. I gave my mom the call. And I was like, hey, Mom, listen, here's the situation. After this mall, they want to go to New York. I don't have to go with them. But if I don't go with them, I got to take the train home by myself. You got to throw in the by yourself just for a little extra sauce. You know what I mean? She was like, you know what? Calling your grandfather. It's a wrap. My grandfather, I was raised by my grandmother, my grandfather. My grandmother passed when I was in 9th grade. So at this point, I was a senior high school. So my grandfather had the, authority in the immediate family. So that was always the call. I'm calling you grandfather. I was like, and my grandfather, here's the problem. He didn't like my mom, just as an individual. So when she called him, the problem, like, I wasn't in trouble for what I did. I was in trouble because he got a call. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, so she called him, and I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that call. I'm just sad. You get the call, it's like, what is going on? I break down the situation to him, and then he's like, you know these people? And I was like, yeah, I ain't know these people. He's like, you good? I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, be safe. And he hung up the phone. This is a new thing. What normally happens is, whatever my mom says, he goes, listen to your mother and tell her to stop calling my phone. So when he hung up the phone, I was like, I felt like, I was afraid. I was like, am I good? My mom calls me back, and the whole vibe is different. She's like, you know what? Go to New York. Go ahead. Do what you want to do. Whatever. Click. Hang up the phone. So we go to New York. I have a beautiful time. Jersey was great. The mall was great. We slide to New York. It was great. I had terrible 7-Eleven food for the first time. It's 48 hours, killing them. And then I was like, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how did today happen? Today happened because people just decided that it was going to happen. It was like, hey, I want to go to the mall. We went to the mall. I want to go to New York. I want to go to New York. This level of freedom is a thing I didn't really have growing up. You feel me? When the trials and tribulations that I had, or a lot of them growing up, weren't in my control to create or to fix. So as I got older, the more power and independence I got, the more I felt kind of safe in my own head. So I was like, maybe, the military is a solid option. It's never, it's not going away. I'm not throwing it in the trash, but let me give college another look. You feel me? So I was like, Drexel wasn't on my list, but it was close. It was in Philly. I didn't want to stay in Philly. I was trying to be out. I've been in Philly all my life. Anybody trying to live in Philly out? Man. So I applied to Drexel, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Threw it in the back of my mind, kept it pushing. Fast forward like a month. I get a random email. I cannot stress to you how random this email. This wasn't like this was like, I got emails from Drexel every 2 minutes. And this was one of those emails. It was like, hey, how would you like to go to school for free? And I was like, chill. I grew up in Philly, the city where everybody's trying to sell you something. This is probably, if I open this show, it might be a virus on my computer. Somebody, yeah. It was bad. My mom instilled that, distrust individuals in me, which I took to college. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, I'll apply. See, I went to my counselor. I was like, hey, is this legit? He was like, seems like it. I don't know. I don't believe it, but go ahead. So I filled out the application. It was great. Yada yada. Did the thing, and then around March, I get another email like, hey, remember the joint we talked to you about in December? You got the interview for that. And I was like, oh snap. And then they was like, oh, but your interview is the same day as your senior class trip. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not going on the senior class trip. But again, college prep school. They have in order to claim we're a college prep school, we need our entire senior class on the same page. And because of, how my middle school went and how my early high school went, everybody in my senior class was on the same page except me. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? Whatever. They moved the interview so I could go on the senior class trip, went on the trip, did the interview, went to sleep. Fast forward, I'm working literally in my job in the middle of something important. Like I'm really in there like, and then I get the notification on the phone. It was like, congratulations, bada, 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 bada. And I was like, and I tried to, my boss was looking me dead in the eyes. So I couldn't like react, but I couldn't go back to doing what I was doing. Like I was really sitting there. Like you ever seen Flash when he's like vibrating but not moving? Where I was sitting like, and that's when my boss is like, Chris, are you okay? Do you need to go home? Like, what's going on with you? And I was like, and I handed her the phone, and she was like, oh. She started snapping. I'm just sitting like, because I don't believe it at this point. I'm like, there's no way in the world that me, this boy who grew up with, mad amount of things that set him back. All these things that could have stopped him from, succeeding. And here I got a scholarship to college. There's an old poem that I don't remember, but I'm going to paraphrase. And it was like, I woke up at 6:00 in the dark because we ain't got no lights. And then me and my mom got my sisters ready for school because, dad wasn't around. And then we went in the fridge and poured, some ice water because ain't no food in the fridge. And then I walked to school because we don't have a car and I don't have money for the bus. Got to school, ate in silence because I ain't had no friends. Got to class, and the teacher had the nerve to get on my nerves because I didn't have a pencil. That's kind of how I felt for a lot of my life, where it was like, no matter what was going wrong, no matter what was going left, I couldn't use it as a reason why I wasn't at the same level as everybody else. I went to a 5-day boarding school. It doesn't matter what happened in those 2 days on the weekend. When you came back to school, nobody cared because nobody saw it. So it's like you grow up, you're going, you know what? All these things that hold me back, whatever. I'm gonna just be held back. That's a lot of my friends were like that growing up. They were like very. I mean, like as a dude who grew up in a high crime community, a low income community, and a predominantly black community. As a black man, it's a hard walk you got to walk. And I have friends, I have people I love to death who go, listen, this is a hard walk, so I'm gonna sit down. And for me, growing up, it was like no matter what was setting me back, no matter what thing I didn't have that I needed, apparently, I'm not gonna let it stop me. I'm gonna be above my problems. Then I came to college, and then I'm around people with sturdy families and whole family structures and all this support system and all these things like that I didn't have. But at the end of the day, we were on the same level because I grew up with 1 to 2 parents at a time, or sometimes no parents at all. I have friends now who have had their entire family sturdy their entire life, and then that broke up in the middle of them being in college, and watching how the things I thought they just held me back. They're trying to hold me back. I'm not going to let them. Realizing that there are things that people that you need from a psychological and emotional level that you don't have growing up. And when money is the predominant force in your household, it doesn't matter what you're going on psychologically and emotionally. Don't got time to talk about that. We got bills to pay. Then I got to college and I don't got no bills, and I was like, all right, so I got all this mental space. Let me start chopping away at these problems, because I had big problems and little stuff, and I was like, I can't handle this little stuff. Let me throw it over there. Cool. Got to college. The big problems are, some of them are on hold, some of them are gone, some of them are out of my control. all of them are things I can't deal with right now. You know, my problems now are getting stressed over class and that, you know, college depression of how it's going to be all right, but it's not all right now, but it feels all right, but you know it's not, but it looks all right. I don't know how to explain it. So I was like, let me solve some of these small problems. Let me pick out these weeds so my flowers can look nice and smooth. And so I started picking out the weeds, and then like you're pick out weeds, you go, all right, boom, 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 boom. My flower's great. Me, I was like, all right, let me pull this. All right, let me go get some tools. I was like, all right, bro, this is actually this isn't a little problem. This is a big problem, very icebergy, I was like, all right, it looks small. My ship can go through that. Nah, very Titanic when I first started out. It was bad. So as I, you know, pulled out these weeds and got muscles on me so I can, you know, pull them joints out, it got to a point where I pulled them all out. And I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. I don't got the big problems. I don't got the little problems. And then now I got all the space, which is kind of weird. Like, you ever pull a plant out of the ground and you did what you're supposed to do, but now you got all this, you know, you got this hole. And I was like, So the rest of my college and even today has been filling those holes in a way that matches me to my core. You know, understanding what I don't like, what I do like, adopting worldviews to see how I feel about them. And there was somewhere it was like, I love this, but this is not for me. There was somewhere, this is for me, but I don't love this. And there was somewhere, this is great, and I love this, but in the world of, you know, people, this is a negative kind of connotation. Because if you're going through worldviews, you go, all right, this is great, this is cool, but this isn't you. So I was trying to find what worldview kind of fit me. And the answer really is it's a mesh of a bunch of different ones. Like, I always tell my friends that we used to argue about what makes you special. And we used to be like, anything that you've done or that you would say that somebody else has done, cross it off. And that was a real tough conversation, because people be like, I'm special, I go to college and pay. I was like, yeah, but a lot of people go to college. A lot of people went to high school. A lot of people did this and the third. And what we came to is like, you are what you've done, what has been done to you, and your collection of your memories. You being in college, you being from Atlantic City, that's the first thing I think of. You being from a low income household, these things individually don't make you special. But the collection of these things, the encapsulation of the life that you lived is what makes you unique. And once I realized that, I started to accept the fact that the things that were holding me back are always going to, but that doesn't mean I have to let them. And that all kind of started with a weird night in Jersey and New York back in high school. All right, thank you very much.
All right, how the randomness of sometimes life just turns out and it goes right. All right, do you want to?
Yeah, I guess all of them shared their personal stories, so mind if I? Yes, hello again. I'm not too big on speaking about myself personally, but they really inspired me, so thank you. And I think that's what we do when we have similar challenges and obstacles, we inspire each other. Okay, so my story. I was born in Pakistan, and I moved to the US when I was 10 months old. And the reason is very special, and it's one of the big reasons why I love my parents so much. My dad had 3 older brothers, and my dad was the only one that went to college, and he majored in English. He wanted to come to the US for my education. And so they packed up their house, my mom sold all her wedding jewelry, and we moved here. And I didn't learn about this until I started, doing the college essays and things like that, and you have to ask your parents about personal things. And when I found out especially that my mom sold her wedding jewelry, it was like, you did that for me? For me? For me? It's like, here in America, there's selflessness, but that's like a whole other level. So that motivated me all the more. And I think in relation to Chris's story, there's always that motivation around us. We want to do better for our mom, for our dad, for ourselves, for, what we believe in and all of that, like I mentioned in my poem. And so growing up, I was a very isolated child. From a very young age, I was the only Pakistani in my elementary school, middle school, and high school. And here at Drexel, it's amazing. And so that's one of the things that really surprised me. There's so many other Desi people like me. And it's weird. The people around you are usually the ones that inspire you. My dad was, when we came to the U.S., the person that taught my dad how to drive, how to properly read English, how to hold a camera, all of that was his Brazilian best friend. And my dad pushed those things onto me. I'm the first daughter, and I have a little sister, and I always believe that the first daughters are usually closely, a lot more related to their dads than they are their moms. Still debating, though. We'll see how my sister grows up. But my dad taught me how to be curious, and he lit that flame inside me. And looking back a few weeks ago, actually, I realized, I was like, every student has that subject that they're good in, like growing up naturally. For me, it was English and writing. And for a second, I was like, okay, but why? And then I realized, when I was little, my dad would force me to sit down, pick any book I want, and write something from it. It could be like an anthropology book. I don't know what I'm writing, but as long as I'm writing. And so my dad was the one that really inspired and really motivated me. And this was happening at the time where I think, in terms of psychology, being a kid is when you really start to develop deeper relationships with your parents. My mom worked during the night. And so when I was little, after school, I would spend a lot of time with my dad, excuse me. And that's one of the experiences that made me being a first generation so unique. And mind you, I'm an immigrant. I'm the first in my family to go to an American college. I'm the first in my family to major in something that I actually want to major in. I'm a cybersecurity major. And I'm the first in my family to have hair this short, actually, which my dad was like, please don't cut your hair anymore. I'm like, Dad. But I was always a very rebellious child anyway, so they're used to that. But one of the things that really shaped who I am as an individual was my relationship with my mom was always very strained. And I think it does have to, it stems back from the fact that I never spent much time with her as a girl. And that's one of the things that no one told me would be a part of growing up being first generation. I'm a female, I want to be close to my mom. Why am I not close to my mom? This was a question I never had answered. Because my mom was so much more different than me, because my dad was so much more different than me, in that English is not their first language, they don't know how to use a computer. Every time something's wrong with the computer, I have to be the one to call the technician. I'm in 3rd grade, mind you, I just want to go outside and play. No one ever told me that I would have to go through these things. And so because I didn't have anyone in my life, I went to other people to find a role model or something. And that never happened. And so I was always forced to be lonely from a young age, and I think that's something we all relate to. We're always in that space where you feel like you're the only one that's going through this, and sometimes you are in that exact situation, in that exact moment. That's exactly what you're going through, and you're probably the only one. But I feel like it's important to share these stories to inspire, and so I hope this inspires someone to, feel like I'm not the only one that's going through this, and I can survive. And so, yeah, I came to college because that's why I'm in this country to begin with. And it's funny, growing up in two worlds, me being Pakistani, me being American, there's always two lines I have to balance. And college in many ways is a blessing. I definitely want to say that it's not for everyone, right? But I knew I wanted to come to college, not just for my parents, but more importantly for myself, because I knew I had a lot more growing to do as a human being. I was not the person I was freshman year that I am now. Like, the change is sometimes really, really weird. But I have a little sister, and I remember the day she was born, I promised myself that I would give her everything I never had, because I was the only child for 12 years. I felt so lonely and so lost, and so many of us feel like that, especially if you're an only child. And so basically the point of my story is, you're going to feel lonely, you're going to feel different in a good way and in a bad way. You're going to go through things that are going to test you, but it's meant to help you grow as an individual. And you run through the fire and you come out stronger. And so yeah, that's pretty much my story.
I can definitely relate to fathers not appreciating short hair. Because when I was in high school, I'd like cut my hair like up to here. My father was like, "What?" Did you want to share?
Sure.
Kevin? All right. Come on up, Kevin.
I relate to a lot of what I heard. Sorry, I had to step out for a second. Even the hair thing, because I actually got a haircut this morning, but usually my hair's kind of wild, and my father always hated it. He's like, "Cut your hair, boy," and I'd be like, "Dad, leave me alone." So I had the great fortune of growing up the youngest son of a wonderful mother and a wonderful dad. But I was the youngest son, had 6 younger sisters, an older sister, and 3 older brothers. And small town Arkansas, in the corner of what we refer to as Arkansas Delta, but most people outside of Arkansas call just what's called the Mississippi Delta. But it's the Arkansas side. And you could, end up go to Mississippi really quickly or go to Louisiana really quickly in that corner. And my parents never went to school all that much. My dad really much never, regularly, not at all after like 6th grade. My mom left school after 8th grade to marry my dad, who was a few years older than her. And then a few years after getting married, they started having children, ended up having, my mom likes to say something that is kind of weird, I think, but not weird, but interesting, that she had 11 children and 13 pregnancies, because she counts the miscarriages, and I'm like, why would you do that? All before she was like I was her 3rd, 4th child. I was like her 4th child when she was like 24. And I'm like, well, how? And I feel like I've done nothing because I'm like, I'm a faculty member here, and I'm like 42, no children. I'm like, I've done nothing. It's strange. But somehow, even though they didn't go to school all that much, they had in their eyes, their children must graduate from high school. And so we always had that mission. It was like a mission of the household. You have to go to school. And so throughout our small towns that we lived in that county, our family, the Mosby family, was known as, that family is very serious about their children in school. And my dad was the worker, my mom, of course, was busy with the children. And she was at the school all the time, and picking us up, running after us, at the teacher conferences. And, it was kind of thing, because we're always following each other, all in the grades, so the teachers always knew us as a family. And it was kind of a marvel. Either day I think about it, it's like we would, go to the grocery store, all in line, like 7 of us at once. And people would be marveling, how are those kids, like, minding or not turning, and she was like, oh, they know better. And people would be like, oh, your children are the nicest, most memorable folk. And of course, being like the youngest boy, but part of it, I would like to think now, well, I don't like to think it, but I kind of realize now, a part of it is just us being, especially, because we kind of did well in school generally, but some of it was like the wonder that a lot of white Americans have when black folks are smart and good. They're like, how can this be? and particularly, but then my brothers, they got older and bigger. They got into football and basketball. But as the youngest boy, they were really mean and horrible to me. Today, it could be like, they'll be like sibling abuse, because they were really mean to me. And so much so that I was like, I don't like them very much. Even as I always wanted to hang out with them, of course. is that, because I was like, I don't want to hang out with the girls so much. And I want to be with my brothers. But then they just beat me up all the time. And things like throw me out of windows that are closed and on the second floor. And my brother shot me with a BB gun, like in the ear, like that hurt. And the thing about my parents never knew because they would like beg me, like, don't tell my mom, don't tell mom and dad, we'll get in trouble. I probably should send this as me film, my mom would be so upset. and then I would wear these hoodies for weeks and stuff because I was like wanted to get my brother's approval. And then all the other children, she was like, they wouldn't get attention. They would never know. But then they were like, and I noticed one day that my brothers, and so I often ended up hanging out with my mom and my sisters in the house. And I used to like sit at the kitchen table all the time because my mom was cooking, and I would be sitting at the kitchen table doing my homework and reading books. And a part of that, because I've always been kind of not lazy, but I'd rather be in the comforts of home than outside doing work or in the cold, like it's too cold here, and raking leaves, and so I find some excuse to be outside. And then I noticed, I was reading the newspaper, and I noticed my brothers are in the newspaper because of some football, basketball. And I was like, Mama, I want to be in the newspaper. And she's like, well, you play basketball and football. And I was like, I don't want to do that. My brothers do that. And then I turned the page, and I thought, oh, you could be in the newspaper if you make all A's and get on the honor roll and stuff. And I was like, well, I'll just do that, and I'll be in the newspaper. And so I kind of started this thing of like, oh, well, I can do that. Like, they're not doing that, although they could do that. And it was occasionally there. But I thought, well, I don't want to do that route. I have to do this other route. And so, but then I sort of recognize now that it kind of became this family project. Oh, Kevin's really good at this. He can do this. And everyone was like, well, Kevin's not doing this. He's not the football, basketball person. He's the books. And it became the goal for me to just do that. And I ended up, going to Stanford University out in California. And and I remember calling my mom, because I ended up going to the school in Arkansas that was a boarding school. And so I called my mother to tell her, oh, Mom, I got into Stanford. And she started crying. And I was like, Mother, I didn't say mother then, but I said, Mama, why are you crying? Are those happy tears? And she's like, well, yes, but then I know you're going to leave me and never coming back. And I was like, Mama, stop being silly. Of course not. But then it turned out to be true. Well, I'm supposed to start crying not really, because I'm still very much a mother's kid. And I see her, not all the time, but frequently. And I talk to her weekly and more than once a week and all that stuff. But I feel like she knew something that I didn't know. I could not know, because I was basically a kid. I was a kid. I was like 16 years old at that moment. And but because I did go to California, and California is wonderful. It's like, have y'all been? It's wonderful. I was just out there for my reunion, and it's like, oh, it's so great. And I didn't want to leave. And you meet people. College is great. It should be great. I don't know. Drexel students work too much. And so stressful. Take too many classes, too many credits, but anyway, California, and I stayed there and was a student for so long. And I lived there for 20 years, and I realized that, and being the first to go to college and graduate, I didn't know how such a different person, because in so many ways I feel like the same person, but then you become a different person as well, because you have all these different experiences that you can't really ever explain. And, because for my parents, they only knew that of high school, graduating from high school. They didn't really know what I was doing, had no advice or nothing about applying to colleges. And it's a marvel to me when I hear people talk about their parents, and college applications. I'm like, what? I did all that stuff myself, you know. And after I graduated, went to college and graduated, all of my 6 younger sisters have gone to college and graduated, and they were, and it was me who was assisting them as they fill out all of those financial aid stuff and applications. Although I didn't write the things for them, 'cause I'm like, you know, and they would get upset at me because I wouldn't write their college papers. But I'm like, hello, I'm academic. That's not, you don't do that. But also, you know, I feel like, you know, in some way you can never go back. And, you know, when I went to grad school, my dad, I never understood this. He was like, why would a person go to Stanford just to end up poor again? Like, why would you do that? And I was like, well, Dad, like, because in their mind, you go to college, and especially a good college, to become like a doctor or a lawyer. And they never understood what being a PhD, a doctoral student in like sociology, what that meant. My mom never understood what, you know, a PhD, until my sister went, but this was like the third to the youngest, went to college, and that was the first, even though this is the third kid, because there's like 3 younger girls, and then a couple of years, and then 3 other younger girls, like, and that oldest of the 3 youngest was going to college at University of Arkansas, and my mom went with her, and was going through these sessions, and some man got up and said, I'm Dr. blah, 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 and she said to myself, oh, that's what Kevin's going to be. He's going to be like a doctor like that. And I was like, Mom, I've been telling you this for like 6 years. And at that moment, she understood. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was like, so it's that kind of that sense of like doing something that like your whole family, the people that you come from, can never truly understand. And having these experiences that you know, these places that you, and going, and I just think sometimes it's just, you feel like you're living this life that is somewhat unfair because you're having these experiences because of them. Because I indeed think, you know, I'm not, all of I've experienced is because of them. Because of the incredible sacrifices they have made and the strength. And actually, I think my parents are amazing. Like, just the fact that they, you know, put that in all of us that we could achieve no matter what our, you know, financial circumstances were. And even, I remember that first week at Stanford, sitting around tables like this. And I was like amazed. There were like people talking about going around the world and going to, I was like, oh, these people are wealthy. And they're like, what did you do this summer, Kevin? And I was like, oh, well, my house burned down and we were homeless. And they're like, what? And then they're talking about their childhoods. And I was like, well, you know, and we didn't have like, I was growing up, like we didn't have like plumbing and stuff. Like, you know, we had like an outhouse. You know, my father was like a sharecropper. And they're like, people don't live like that in the United States. And I was like, well, yes, they do. Like, but, you know, and I always, you know, I've never doubted that, like, you know, that I did not, well, you know, you have your doubts about, but then I learned, oh, everyone at Stanford thinks they made a mistake. Like, everyone have doubts about those things, like if people made a mistake about admitting them, you know. But still, at the same time, I never doubted my ability to make it, in a sense, because I thought, well, I'm just as smart as the next person, and I belong. And I think that comes from my parents and my family, and maybe my brother is beating me up all the time, and me still being here. And just to know, like, if my brothers and I are fine now. I feel like the relationship is probably better than most of my sisters. Although I think my sisters and like I find that our relationship is good because it's better over the phone and, you know, than that. Like when I spent too much time in Arkansas, the sisters and I, it's a little rough. But because they can be some. But anyway, but I think, but as others have said, I do think it's a great moment now in terms of when I was in college in the late 90s, because there was nothing like this, no conversations about the issues of being a first generation student. And even in a wealthy place like Stanford that prides himself on taking care of their students. I was just out there from a reunion, and they now have a dean of first generation students and an office, and I was telling them about First Forward and how we started in part by just us faculty, staff, and students just coming out saying, we are first generation, let's talk and share our stories. And I think that is so powerful because it just allows us to gain the courage to, that's, we know from lots of, empirical examples of other folks who have been marginalized and have struggled to gain sort of authority and use their strength and powers. Okay. So I'll just end there.
All right, so that is just about it for our evening. I want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing your story. So I'll kind of close on this one quote. My grandparents were originally from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and they moved to Troy, New York back in like 1951, 52 as part of the Great Migration. So they were one of only a handful of black families who lived in the area that my dad grew up in. And they were interviewed by the local newspaper, and the headline of the article, which I have at home, is a quote that my grandparents said, and it's, "Whatever you want to be the best." So thank you all for sharing your stories. I hope that you all continue to share your stories, and with your peers, with your faculty, with your staff. I think it is so important that we continue to get the word out about first generation and the pride that we have about being first generation. Thank you. So we can end that. So as I mentioned.